What is he, Andrew Powell? Is he Liberal, Labour?
It's too late for elections, isn't it?
He's just welcoming me to...
To his electorate?
Yeah.
All right.
What is he? You know?
Too late.
Andrew Powell.
No.
He's got a blue tie on.
Would be LNP then, wouldn't he?
That's what I reckon.
All right.
That's what I reckon.
Usually they have the money to send this kind of thing.
Yes, well, that's
The
true
other,
too.
I don't see the other people.
Taxpayers' money. Should we start with the Heart Sutra?
Oh my gosh.
I prostrated the eye triple gem. Thus did he hear it one time. The Bhagavan was observed in Rajgiri together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. Then the Bhagavan was absorbed in concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra says this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? They said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom shall look upon like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition, factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition, factors, no consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element and so on up to including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extension of ignorance, and so on up to including no aging and death, and no extension of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error to reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in 3 times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment and reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of the great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as the truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared, Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commanded the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice a profound perfection of wisdom just as you've indicated, even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the worlds of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised, thus spoken by the God. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the highest assembly. By the accumulations that I collect when listening to the Dhamma, may I attain the state of Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the highest assembly. From the accumulations that I collect by listening to the teachings, may I attain the state of Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the highest assembly. From the accumulations that I collect by listening to the teachings, may I attain the state of the Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. Sound like an alarm. Do we have something ringing still?
Where?
I don't know. Shannon says that it sounds like an alarm. Maybe it's your alarm, Shannon.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's quiet here today.
Sorry?
It's quiet here today.
Yeah, quiet here.
Yeah, compared to yesterday when it was pouring with rain and thundering. And
Yeah, it was pretty
Oh,
dramatic
gosh.
yesterday.
Very dramatic.
It was full on.
Melodramatic. So what I thought of doing today was is to look at maybe one of the secondary offenses, number 40. Then Venerable Dechen
Oh, wow. I'm thinking, who's not here? Who could
Yeah.
it be?
took me some time to
Oh, you were
read.
thinking of me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
because
it.
I'm so memorable.
Have to kind of like go through all the letters in the alphabet
Oh,
till I got
yeah.
to D. Yeah.
You're hopeless.
And what about Venerable Dechen?
Then Dechen had a couple of questions in relation to the review questions, and also wanted to make sure that also to say that if you guys at home, if you are doing the review session, the review questions every week, and you have questions about things that you're not sure or the questions are not clear, you can definitely bring them during the tutorial time to try to clarify them. So that's one thing, and of course, highlighting some of the points that we've covered today. So that's quite a lot. Let's begin with quickly covering the 40th secondary offense, which is if out of bitterness or laziness, you do not try to alleviate the sorrow of sentient beings, mourning the loss of a loved one or possessions. It is a secondary offense of not acting to dispel another's sorrow. So on the surface, I think that it's really clear.
Yeah.
So if there is something that you can do in order to alleviate the sorrow of a sentient being, mourning the loss of a loved one or possessions, it is a secondary offense of not acting to dispel another's sorrow. So I think that what is stated here is quite confined. There are a couple of cases, right? When someone loses their possessions, or when they lose somebody that they love. I think that you can extend probably on that if someone is in another need, they're sick, they need some spiritual support. I think that we've covered that before. You know, if someone is needing some spiritual support or physical support, if you need to, you know, if you have an ability to help someone that is ill and you don't do that, that's a secondary offense. But I think that we can extend also on this one. If there's someone in need, you know, they might be losing someone that is close to them. They might have a terminal disease. You know, they might have lost some of their possessions. They might be dispossessed. They might have lost their job or what have you. So if there is something that you can do to help that person, but you don't because of laziness or bitterness, it is a secondary offense. So it requires sometimes to have some skills. It's not necessarily that you need to be trained to do it, but sometimes you just need to have the skills in order to deal with someone that is grieving. I remember that many years ago, a woman came to see Geshe Jamin, the previous Geshe, the center, and her son has committed suicide maybe 3 or 4 years before that, and she was still completely at loss. You know, she was in deep depression. I think that for her, every day was a struggle to get out of bed. You know, she was still completely crushed by it. And someone told her, she wasn't Buddhist, but someone told her that it'd be good if she spoke with Geshe Jamin. So first off, she had to go through me, a translator, which is always difficult, particularly in that situation when someone is kind of experiencing pain. If you can talk to them directly, it's much easier than going indirectly. That's one thing. But another thing was that I think that there was a cultural gap between Geshe Jamin and the person. And because of that, I felt that there wasn't enough skills in trying to help someone like that. I'm not blaming Geshe Jamin for that, but it's not, kind of, to me, kind of the situation always kind of emphasizes the point that you also need to sometimes have the skill to look at what is the background of that person, where they're coming from, what is the actual question, what is the underlying tone of that question, and what is, what is the way that you can approach it in a Buddhist way and from a non-Buddhist way. For all those different things, you need skills, and sometimes it's life skills, but sometimes it's skills that you can train it in a professional way. Now, having lived here at Chinbasic Institute, we have people that sometimes struggle, have different struggles in their life. They kind of want to have an advice because they're depressed, because they're on this medication, the other medication, because they're physically ill, because their family member is physically ill, maybe they're about to die. So I always feel that, I don't have a counseling background. So sometimes I'm lost for words. Anyway, going back to that woman, Geshe Jiaming. So he was trying to give her the Buddhist spiel. It's like you can think of other people in that situation, other beings in worse situations, and so forth. So it works for Buddhists, but it can also work for someone that is non-Buddhist. But if someone is totally depressed and kind of they're finding every day difficult just to get out of bed, sometimes you need more than that. You need psychological or counseling background to see what will work for them, not only in a strict way. Anyway, so if you choose not to help someone because of laziness or bitterness, that's a secondary offense. But I think that also if you want to be better in working for the sake of others, it's good to acquire some life skills, counseling or what have you. Also some practical skills in terms of how do you care for someone that is undergoing the process of death. Any questions? I think that it's quite straightforward.
I mean, I think it refers back to knowing what your limitations are.
Yeah.
And knowing what, expecting, like that one time somebody came to me here and said, I've heard that Buddhist monks can excise spirits. And I just said, no, I don't think so.
Black magic and stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean,
yeah,
it isn't part of our skill set, really, is it? It might be. I think that's sort of potentially more the skill set of individuals. You don't have to be a monk or some people have gifts and others don't. And I think that applies with loss and grief too.
I think that sometimes your skill set also dictates. Sometimes your skills is also to look at the person who is asking the question and giving them an answer according to where they're at. Because I remember that sometimes we had people that were more kind of really prone to thinking of spirit harm and ghosts and demons and so forth. And they came to us for advice or prayers and so forth. And I remember Geshe Jiaming and Geshe Tsultrim giving advice to someone that is prone to those situations, where if someone has a different disposition, the advice that was given to a situation like that was different. Yeah.
So, sorry, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do you, because people have sorrow and suffer because somebody dies or you lost something, it's because of the ignorance that is behind all this. Do you take, or how do you take that in consideration when you counsel somebody? How would you think, would you use that information?
So how would you know when someone is grieving the passing away, the sickness or passing away of someone that you like? The pain is mostly attributed, or not mostly, it arises from ignorance. So how then would you approach that? I think that you can try to approach that with someone that is more open to listen to that. I think that it's easier to bring it up with someone that has either an interest in Buddhism, they see themselves as Buddhist, or they have some inclination to think about it from the viewpoint of the Buddhist tradition, or even if someone doesn't have any inkling to follow the Buddhist tradition, but you can still see that they're open-minded. You can then speak of how death is certain, the time of death is uncertain, and also to know that the inevitability of death, not being able to overcome it, and how that will happen to us also, and how can we live a life that is more meaningful in light of our upcoming death? So there are different ways that you can approach that if you sense that the person is open to think about it. But I remember that when my parents were still alive, and they were kind of getting older and older and frailer and frailer. And I was having conversations both with my mom and dad, and I was trying to bring up the whole idea of death and the inevitability of death, and also not dying with a sense of regret or not dying with fear and so forth. And they were completely closed to that. They didn't want to hear about any of it. My dad used to say things like, just to elicit some kind of response. He used to say that, I don't need you to come and visit my grave, or I don't need you to build a gravestone or whatever. And I used to say, to reply to that, sometimes saying that, why do you care? You're not going to be there anyway. You're not going to know about it. So, or everyone is going to die. So why make a big fuss out of it? But I think that he found it offensive rather than supportive. So you can try to I think that the bottom line is that if someone is open to hear about it, then I think that it's good to share it with them. But this is something that you can sense while having a conversation with that person, how open they are and how susceptible they are to look at the reality of life and the reality of death.
So what were they believing? What will happen after they die? Did they believe in something, or?
You mean my parents? Or?
Yeah.
No, I think that they were. My parents were not spiritual at all. For them, there was just one life, and upon death, it's game over.
Nirvana.
Yeah. Well, it was not necessarily. I think that both of them were pretty scared of death, like most people, including myself. So although I think that, although from a Buddhist perspective, we think of death and impermanence, I try to think about it every day. Still, I sometimes see in different reactions that I have to life how I still have death still shocks me. Yeah.
When I approach, when I approach people, I'm a doctor, so I see a lot of people with different things and different problems. So when I approach this subject, I try to explain to them, even they believe in God or they don't believe, or they are this or that, try to explain to them that there is something more than the physical body. There is, I try to explain to them that the body is something which is changing all the time. You are born like small like this, and then you grow. So the body is not you. It cannot be you. There is something else deeper inside you. So that thinks that whatever you can call it, and people call it different way, doesn't die with the body. The body dies, but there is something, the core of existence in you, which doesn't die. So I try to see, and some people accept that in a way. They think a little bit about it. They say, makes sense a little bit. So I think that is, one way also to approach this, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder if people at home can hear a conversation or whether it's difficult. Florian was saying that as a doctor, sometimes he has to, yes, most of it, that's good. So I don't have to repeat the whole lot. So I think that often you have to also assess what is the spiritual disposition, religious or spiritual disposition of the person, and then talk to them at that level. I think that what you said is very much in line with that. It kind of could be something beyond, there is something beyond this body, and for different people it means different thing, according to your spiritual or religious affiliation. So it's good, it's good to find those ways, those links to help people look at the situation from a different perspective.
There's a question.
There's a question. All right. So if one doesn't have the skills, then should one stay out of it? Well, I think that, it's good. if someone is asking you directly for an advice or for help and so forth, and you find that you don't have the skills, it's good to say that. It's good to acknowledge that. If someone is depressed, heavily depressed, and they're looking for help, then sometimes I think, the way that now I approach that, and that's something that I learned from just experience of being here, is that sometimes you can listen to the person and just speaking about it helps them a little bit. But now what I normally say is that, look, I don't have skills with clinical depression or counseling skill, but if I feel that someone needs to see a professional, to see a professional or to get onto some kind of program, either spiritual, counseling program or sometimes medical program, I said that probably this is what they need, but I know I don't have those skills, so they're good if they go and see someone, particularly if you feel that someone is taking it to an extreme, if you feel that they might be suicidal and so forth. It's good to recommend someone that has the skill to help them.
Well, the best thing you can do to help people, just with what I've learned over the years with the counselling courses and mental health first aid, is listen. Listening is a very fundamental tool that you use for anybody that is in any level of distress.
Yeah.
And so, us as Buddhists, I think we can certainly do that. If somebody asks you a specific question, you ask them one back.
Yeah.
That's sort of it. But then ultimately, if you think somebody is suicidal, it's okay to ask.
Yeah.
And if they say yes, then you need to do something about it. If they say no, I'm not, then you don't need to do anything about it except suggest that they need to seek more support than just yourself.
Yeah.
It's really important to identify if people are suicidal or not, and to what degree they are suicidal. If somebody says yes and they can tell you how they're going to do it, you need to do something.
Definitely.
You definitely need to do something. Talk to somebody, or make sure they go and talk to somebody. You will go with them to somebody. But
we just had a conversation a while ago in the program committee about mental health first aid course, so to speak, how to kind of be able to at least address some of those issues with not having skills. Where do you go? What do you do? What do you ask? How do you approach it? And so forth. So hopefully we'll be able to do it at some point.
Yeah, it's about a 2-day, 3-day course.
Yeah.
And I personally found it really useful.
Yeah.
Because it did make it clear on what you should highlight and what to do. And it doesn't mean that you become the expert dealing with it, but it just lets you know.
I'm planning also to do this course at some point, because I think that it's essential, at least for me. Shannon says that if people are interested in speaking more about death, they can join Venerable Pende, the legendary Pende. Let's chat about death at the Big Love Cafe, the 5th of December, 12:30 to 1:30. All right, let's move on, because we have some more things to cover. So Dechen wanted to just maybe speak about a couple of examples taken from the review questions of how do you apply the 4 attributes that Geshe-la mentioned last week: the subject matter, the purpose, the underlying purpose, and the relations or the connections to the following examples that I put in the review questions. So we don't have a lot of time. Maybe let's pick up a couple of examples and just discuss them to see that. The big curly one. Dechen, you since you brought up this idea, then maybe choose which one do you want to discuss.
Well, we can go the big curly one then.
So which are the big curly one?
One on tenants, the Kunchok Jigme one post. That's a big curly one.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to see how close to the mark.
All right, Kunchen Jigme Wampo's presentation of tenets. So, I thought when I put it in the review questions, I thought I was a little bit hesitant about it because I thought it is likely that some of you, or maybe many of you, haven't studied tenets before.
Yeah.
Maybe some of you had a little bit of exposure to tenets, but I thought it's okay to put it in the review questions. It's just good to think about it. So, what's the subject matter of tenets?
The different schools. Oh, here we go. You stuff down.
Well, yeah, haven't you written stuff down?
Not on that one.
I had the nature of persons and phenomena according to the tenets of Indian schools, Buddhists and non-Buddhists. That's after reading the chapter and trying to work out how.
That's good. That's good. If it prompts you to do it, then that's good. So the nature of persons and phenomena according to different schools of thought within Buddhist philosophy.
Yeah.
People at home, have you got any ideas? Dechen, Florin, any ideas of
said something similar to that?
something similar?
Which chapter is tenets in the book? Because there's no chapter in my book labeled tenets.
No, I must have. I didn't do that one. I had to go.
All right. Well, I think that you can say also in general, you can express it like in the way that.
Yeah, how would you express
Yeshe, I have problems with name today. In the way that Yeshe did. You can also say in general, the subject matter is the different schools of thought within Buddhist philosophy.
Oh, well, okay, and better specifics. Right.
The beliefs of different Buddhist schools. Yeah, Dechen, what did you say?
Which chapter in the book?
All the text.
Oh, which one?
All the text.
Oh, it's throughout the whole.
Yeah, we have a presentation.
Said they read the chapter. I thought it was Dechen said she read the chapter, or someone said they'd read the chapter. Which chapter? There's no chapter labelled tenets in the book.
Just a second.
In Bodhisattva's Way of Life. This is what we're doing, isn't it? I thought it was.
I know we refer to the text on tenets. So when you
this is not in the book. How's this the Bodhisattva's Way of Life? That's what I want to know. I mean, where's it relevant? If it's relevant, yeah, but you mean it goes? If you can define what tenets, you're saying they're different views of, say, for example, their approach to wisdom or their approach to whatever, different things. Is that what you're saying? It's like the difference between the Kagyu school and the what we call I mean, not call them the Gelang school.
The question was just a general question, since Geshe-la brought up this point of how you assess a certain text or teaching and check whether it's a fully qualified teaching, having all the characteristics of attributes. Those are the 4 features that you can check. So in the question is just about, let's try different sets of teachings, not only Shantideva's text, but also other texts. So text on tenets, for those of you who have studied it, probably you can try to do it. For those of you who haven't studied it, probably it's harder. So don't worry about it. It's not an exam. It's not that you have to excel in that question. But anyway, subject matter, I think that is, as you said, either presentation of selfness of persons and phenomena according to different schools of thought, or you can say just the positions of the different schools of thought within Buddhist philosophy. What's the purpose?
To extract oneself and others from a realm of painful existence and to attain freedoms.
To extract oneself and others from conditioned existence and to attain freedom. Yeah, well, no, it's not that for those questions. It's not that there is like correct or incorrect, absolute failure and absolute. So Kerry says to understand different points of view of the lead to our understanding, to realize the fundamental view of emptiness. Jason says.
View is that the perceptual understanding?
So Graham is saying, Graham, could you repeat it?
Yeah, what does he mean by final view? Is that everyone will have possibly a different view of it, won't they? Because
the final view of emptiness is the middle way consequence school of thought view of emptiness.
But I mean, we don't talk about emptiness in terms of a detailed view, because everyone views it, perceives it in their own way. And so you can't actually talk about the perceptual understanding of emptiness, because it can't be perceived in language, can it? I mean, that's the whole idea of how we do meditation and so on. We can't actually describe different versions. You can talk about different versions of getting there, but you can't so much talk about, because the ending, the result should be the same to reach Buddhism, isn't it? To become a Buddha. So has a final result, but there are different schools, say within Buddhist philosophy and other types of Buddhism, Zen and so on, that arrive at that same result using different methods. Is that what you're getting at?
Well, the term final view of emptiness is used. No, it is used at least in this tradition, and it refers not necessarily to different Buddhist traditions across different Asian countries. It just looks at the system of tenets and says that there is a view of substances according to the lower tenets. For example, Vaibhashika tenets, or Tantrika tenets, Chittamatra tenets, which is already kind of a Mahayana tenet. And then there is the final view of emptiness that accords with the view of the middle way consequent school of thought. Now, it doesn't mean that as a practitioner, you will necessarily have the final view of emptiness. Of course, as a practitioner, according to your own disposition, you might hold or understand or realize different levels of selflessness. But in terms of the philosophical view, the one that has the utmost precision with respect to selflessness, the one that totally accords with the view of with reality, is the Prasangika, the middle way consequent school view. And this is called the final view of emptiness.
So that's just a definition of the final view, isn't it? Yeah. So it's just it's just words, really. I mean,
no, it's not just words. That's the final view of emptiness. I mean, it's not just words. When you look at the tenet system, then you approach the system with reasons and logic. So you look at the view of selflessness according to the Vaibhashika school, which is good. It's not to say that it is inferior. It's not final, but it's a good view of selflessness. But then you see that there is faults with that view. It doesn't cover everything, and also you can still find a deeper level of selflessness that the Vaibhashika school does not present. So you find faults in the Vaibhashika school. Then in the Sutra school, you also find faults in the mind-only school, and then faults in the middle way autonomy school. So the views are not to say negative views. It's not that they're inferior views in a sense that you look down on those views, but in terms of wanting to develop a precise and accurate view of reality, their positions are not the final view of reality. They're stepping stones for reality. They're stepping stones in order to realize that, but they're not the final view. The final view is the middle way consequent school. And if you say that it's only words, maybe it's not. You need to find reasons and logic that fault the middle way consequent school of thought. And if you find faults in that system, then you can say it's not the final view, there is another view.
Yeah, well, that's what's Olaf saying at the moment. He's saying the Chittamatra might disagree. Yeah, I mean, the different schools, there are so many different schools.
Yeah, but we need to come up. It's not just to say that they might not they might agree with you or they might disagree with you. When we discuss those views, we need to discuss them on the basis of reasons.
Oh, yeah, I can see there's a value in discussing different views. I think that's an excellent idea. You definitely need to.
I mean, if you can come up with real faults, if you say that, for example, I'm a Chittamatra person, and for me, this view is incorrect because of so on and so forth, and you can hold your position, then you can say that it's not the final view. But just to bring it up as an intellectual discussion to say that they might not agree with you.
Yeah, but I mean, we're just intellectualizing, aren't we?
Be precise.
Yeah.
Yes, Dechin. No, I'm just joking. Your name is Dechin. Okay.
Dechin, I want to ask a question now.
Yeah.
Question, my turn. So, This is my quick go at it. Subject matter, the different schools of thought within Buddhist philosophy. Thank you for that.
Bingo.
The purpose is to understand the different points of view of the nature of reality.
Yes.
So that's the purpose. So the underlying purpose is to understand the nature of reality. That's
I think that probably
what we want to do.
The underlying purpose, I would say, is to through realizing the different views of reality of schools of thought, to be led to the purpose is to realize the final point of view of the Prasangika school.
Which is the nature of reality.
Yeah.
So that's the relationship / connection. Through study and analysis, one comes to have a conceptual understanding of the Prasangika.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't studied tenets. I'm looking forward to it, which maybe I am. But which ultimately leads to a perceptual realization with practice.
You can say that, or you can say the connection is through studying the different schools of thought. I mean, what you said is correct. The way that I would say that is through studying the different schools of thought, you progress from lower schools of thought to high school of thought until you come to realize the final view.
But that's because you've studied it a few times and understand it. But just in a general. What did you say, Rishi? Come on.
Remember, I read this chapter like
I
was really trying to
I've
never heard of it before. So I was really trying to pull the wool out of this one. I thought, we're going to have a go at this. So the connection, a concise, so that the general outlines and basic postures of the system of tenets could be taught and memorized without the encumbrance of a great deal of elaboration in order to flesh out the theoretical topics, especially on emptiness.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, that's good. It sounds like a resolution that you get to in a PhD dissertation.
Well, the connection too, you really get them because of my subject and purpose and underlying purpose. That was connection.
So can we do another one quickly, please?
Yeah, so just a second. Matt is asking, from a Prasangika perspective, is the dark realization of emptiness non-conceptual? Yes. Yes. All right, the next question.
Do we have time to do another one?
Let's do it really quickly because we are...
Well, we don't have to then.
No, which one did you want?
Which one do you want to do, Carson? Your choice or Yeshi? Well, look, I'd like to do the foundation.
So let me do it quickly. I'll say it and then without discussion so that we can cover some of the things that we said today. The foundation of all good qualities. The subject matter. The foundation of, you could say, the foundation of all good qualities is actually a Lamrim text.
It is.
No, so you can say it is the steps of the path of enlightenment. That's the subject matter. The purpose is to understand the steps of the path of enlightenment. The underlying purpose to realize the steps of the path of enlightenment, so that on that basis we can attain the state of enlightenment. The connection.
The relationship and connection is by practicing in a sequential way as presented. One will reach enlightenment.
Bingo. All right.
Thank you.
No worries. Okay. Let's look at something. This.
What are you looking for?
Now I'm just kind of closing something. All right. I'm looking for love.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure at all, but probably many of us. Anyway, so we're looking at, due to faith in the teacher, one should have respect. So remember that respect is a respect for a humdoer, venerating, appreciating, and so forth, the humdoer. So in looking at extensive explanation, looking at point A, one should respect the teacher because he has acted with all sentient beings where he's only child. First point, I think that we've covered only the first point today. So accomplishing this principle method required of Buddhas. So I thought it's kind of, in general, it is an interesting thing to think of, because when we think of not only the Buddha, but when we think of our teachers, it's always good to think that how would it feel like if I knew that my teacher is here, that, room with me, or looking at all the different things that I do, all the different things that I say, all the different things that I think, how embarrassing it would be. I think that we've spoken about it before, that the Buddhas are always knowing, they're all knowing. Yeah. But also, that's one good way of thinking about it. The other good way is to think that actually this is the way that the Buddha behaves. This is the way that the Buddha thinks. If this is the way that my teacher behaves, if this is the way that my teacher thinks, this is the way that I should also behave and think, or think and behave. So then when we think particularly of how do we react to situations when someone is harming us, then sometimes it's good to think of what would Lama Zopa Rinpoche do in this situation? What would my teacher do in this situation? What would Geshe do in this situation? What would His Holiness the Dalai Lama do in this situation? I think that in all of those different situations, we would probably conclude that they will not get angry, or they will not be furious. Of course, it doesn't mean to say that they will not find certain states disturbing, in the sense that displeasing, but it is likely that they're not going to react to that with a sense of anger that we normally, they wouldn't see that reaction. It's likely that they wouldn't become livid like we do. So, then showing respect and cherishing other beings is identified as a principal method for repaying the kindness of the Buddhas in light of what they have done. So, that's quite an interesting point. So we want to repay the kindness of the Buddha. How do we repay the kindness of the Buddha? In general?
By pleasing him, practicing the path, doing his things.
Yeah. By pleasing him, practicing the steps of the path, and so forth. That's correct. In a more specific way here, Shantideva says that what you said is correct, but it's more specific here. It says that to repay the kindness of the Buddha, you need to be kind to other sentient beings. That's one of the main ways to be to repay the kindness of the Buddha. And it's interesting because later on, in verse, I think 123 or 4, one of those verses, it says, you can make offering to the Buddha. Geshe mentioned that. You can make offering to the Buddha. You can offer your body, speech, and mind. You often find that sometimes you find it in kind of Dhamma situation, Dhamma events, and so forth. Someone could make an incredible offering. They can make a huge financial offering. They can be extremely helpful to a certain organization, to a certain event, but also they can treat others around them in a way that is really ugly. Or, so, it happens. You can see that sometimes in actuality. I think that, it can also happen to us, right? So we can be completely respectful to the Buddhas, the teachers, and so forth. But then if someone treats us in a way that is we dislike, or we want to assert our position in a certain situation, we become horrible to some people. So the point that is made here is that if you're venerating the Buddha, if you're venerating your teacher, but you treat others in a displeasing way, the Buddha is not going to be happy with you, not going to be pleased with you. So to repay the kindness of the Buddha, you become kind to others. But also, the context of this discussion here is in terms of how you practice patience. Right? So in general, we want to repay the kindness of the Buddha by being kind to others. But in a more specific way, since this is the patience chapter, to be kind to others means that we also do not retaliate in harming others when we're being harmed, it's still we appreciate the kindness of others when we work for their sake. So Shannon says, work for the benefit of others. Yeah, work for the benefit of others is repaying the kindness of the Buddha, but in a more specific way, even more so for those who have harmed you. So
it sort of feeds into what we were talking about last week, that when our enemy or the opposition is being praised and being praised for the positive things that he does, rather than getting annoyed or angry, it's best to agree and just practice patience with that, regardless of what you think or what you may feel, because it is the most favourable. It pleases everybody's mind. It's by doing so, you're maintaining harmony and peace, which is people then will respect you.
Yeah, but when you say despite of what you think or feel, I think that part of it is part of the practice of patience has to do with changing the way that we feel and changing the way that we think. So it's not that we're doing something despite what we feel or think. It's like there is something that we feel and think, but this is what we need to change.
Exactly. That's a better way to put it.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your name again?
Kaltsunaki. All right. So that was in verse 119. So let's quickly look at this verse. I'm wondering, for people that are now looking at Zoom, do you see the verses on your screen, or do you still see the outline on your screen? I think that you still see the outline, sorry. Okay. All right, let's look at the verse. So furthermore, what way is there to repay those without dissimulation? Well, friends and grant immeasurable benefit other than pleasing sentient beings. So to repay those without dissimulation, the Buddhas who are friend and grant immeasurable benefit, is to please sentient beings. So there are a couple of points I think that we can pull out from this verse. You can say that the first point is that we should respect others, even harmdoers, because this is what Buddhas do. This is what Namazova Rinpoche does. This is what His Honest Dalai Lama does. Even if someone is harmful to them, they still, in their interaction with them, I think still are respectful and kind. Then also we should be having in this way because we are repaying the kindness of the Buddha. So it's not only that we act in this way because this is what Buddhas do, but also a way to repay the kindness of the Buddhas, the kindness that we experience. We need to be kind to others, even to harmdoers. So Shannon is asking, is this different from being a people pleaser? Well, sometimes to act for the benefit of others is also to, you can actually be quite wrathful with them, or give them tough love. I think that sometimes if you rely upon a certain teacher who has sometimes kind of a wrathful demeanor, or at least sometimes with you, could be a way of being kind to you. Sometimes pleasing someone doesn't really work for their sake. Sometimes you need to be quite wrathful with them or abrupt or what have you, but still, I guess, motivated by the wish to benefit.
Well, I mean, the fact that you're even engaging with a harmdoer in a wrathful way, which is based on compassion, shows you care.
Yeah.
If you didn't care, you'd say nothing about, you'll get your comeuppance, but, What was the second point you made? That good to respect others like the Buddhas would do.
So that's the first one.
Yeah, yeah.
But the second one is that I think of what we've discussed, we should repay, we should
repaying the kindness.
repaying the kindness of the Buddhas is to is to be kind to sentient beings, or to work for the sake of sentient beings.
And so because the third one, because what I've got in my mind, what I got distracted with not hearing your second point, is it pleases the Buddhists.
Yeah, it pleases.
Yeah, it pleases them. You know,
And this is part of the point.
I find that very inspiring.
Yeah.
That often motivates me to do good things.
Yeah.
It's
definitely pleases the Buddha. And this is what I wanted to speak of next, which is covered by verses 120. Sorry, let's look at. So then we have 3 verses that come on the section of establishing that. Now, the word for establishing that in Tibetan is ambiguous. You can understand it as establishing that. You can also understand it as proving something. So it's proving that showing respect and cherishing other beings is identified as a principal method for repaying the kindness of Buddhas in light of what they have done. So you can prove that. But also another interpretation of that word in Tibetan is practicing that. So to prove and to practice, there's the same word for proving and practicing in Tibetan. So I thought that when you read through verses 120, 21, and 22 and 3, you can prove that showing respect to cherishing other sentient beings is identified as a principal method for repaying the kindness of the Buddhas in light of what they have done. But you can also then take point A as the principal premise or idea that informs your practice. And then if you think of how then do I repay the kindness of the Buddhas in a practical way, then those 3 points show you how to do it in a practical way. This is what you need to practice. So what you need to practice is one should be patient with harm done by sentient beings in verse 120. So if you show respect and cherish other beings, it is identified as a principal method for repaying the kindness of the Buddhas. Let's look at verse 120. Sorry, not this. This. Because benefiting them will repay those who give up their holy bodies and enter relentless torment or the hell without respite. Therefore, even if they cause me great harm, I shall behave impeccably in all. So what is it that I need to practice? I should behave impeccably in all situations with everyone. I should be patient even with harm doers, because benefiting harm doers, benefiting everyone, but particularly harm doers, will repay the kindness of those who give up the holy bodies to enter the unrelenting hell. So, by the way, I did it, put it in my tutorial notes.
They come by email now, don't they?
Yeah, because I can't access the Dropbox. So, logical statements drawn from verses 119 to 123. So the premise of the discussion, the topic is the way to repay the kindness of the Buddhas is to please sentient beings. Again, it's different to people pleaser. It's just to be kind to sentient beings or to benefit and to help them out. So what is it that we need to practice? I should behave impeccably even with those who harm me, because benefiting them will repay the benefit. Sorry, will repay the Buddhas who have given up everything, including the bodies, for the sake of sentient beings. So this is what we need to practice. We need to behave impeccably, even those who harm me. That's the first point for practice in verse 120. Then the next verse says, I should abandon conceit one feels in relation to other sentient beings in verse 121. So let's look at this verse quickly. So it says, because those who are my lords for the time being disregard even their own bodies, then why does the confused I act proud and not behave with the attributes of a servant towards them? So again, what is it that I should be practicing, if you ask? I should not act ignorantly or stupidly and conceitedly with sentient beings, because those who are my lords, those who are my lords or my masters, give away their own bodies for their sake. Now,
or what about just acting with humility? It seems to me what you're actually practicing there is humility.
You can say that I should practice with humility, but when you speak about it in the opposite way, to act not to act conceitedly, it highlights something which I wanted to draw from Khenpo Kumpe's explanation. So he says on page 225, I think, or 27. So in 227 it says, and if on occasion Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the laws and teachers of ourselves and others, are careless even of their own bodies for being sake. When it says that they're careless even if of their own bodies, I think that it means that they consider the welfare of others to be more important even than their own body, right? So they're willing to dispense even with their own bodies for the sake of others. How can we, inept and stupid as we are in discriminating between good and bad behavior, act with conceit towards others? So particularly when you think about it in relation to someone that harms you. So someone that harms you, we should have a sense of, here Shantideva says that we should respect that person. But sometimes what happens is that when we think of receiving harm from another person, we think, how dare they do that to someone like me? How dare they, defame me or harm me physically and so forth? So Shantideva says that there could be a conceited or kind of a proud attitude that you develop when you think, how dare they do that? So then what you should practice when you develop a sense of respect for others, you can say that I practiced in humility, not kind of thinking, how dare they? But here to emphasize that Shantideva says, you don't act in being conceited, in being confused, and being proud, and so forth. So, how can we, as Khenpo Kumpen says, inept and stupid or ignorant, as we are in discriminating between good and bad behavior, act with such conceit towards others? We have not to do so. Instead, we should become the respectful servants. Likewise, faithful attendants, we should strive to bring happiness to others.
Excuse me, nice question. What about if you focus on yourself in that situation when somebody harms you? That means you produce some suffering to you, yes? So what about looking at you and look at the ignorance you are in to feel the suffering from the other person instead of focusing on the other person, focusing on you? Is that?
Well, in previous verses, we looked at how when you're being harmed, for example, then you feel you think of anger is arising. Then when you think about it from the point of view of the aggressor, the person that inflicts harm upon you, they're doing that, for example, because they're angry, because they're confused. So you can feel compassion for them because of that, and you can also then think of how they're creating negative actions by harming you. Therefore, they will experience the results of that in the future. So that's how you shift your perspective from looking at yourself and looking at what happens to the other person. Yeah, Shantideva spoke about it before, and Yeshua said it today nicely that there's so many arguments that Shantideva brings up here in the practice of patience, and we need to look at what works for us, right? So which arguments really fit well with our mind. And we have a great deal of arguments here, and we can use many of them for one situation. Attack patience from different perspectives. Now, there were a couple of other, I thought, interesting points to draw from this text, but it seems like we ran out of time today. So I will do it tomorrow because I think that at least for those of you who have the text at home, it's really good to look at verse 122. Was it? Sorry. Yeah, 122 to 4 and 5, but particularly the explanation of verse 126 was really deep and extensive. But we will also look at that tomorrow because I thought there are quite a few interesting points that Kempa Kumpen draws from that presentation. So maybe we'll just leave it here for now.
Because how far did he eventually get to 124?
He got today to 124? Oh, right. So I jumped the gun. 125. All right. So we will speak tomorrow about of 126 and also what in between. Due to this virtue, may I quickly become a Guru Buddha and lead all transmigratory beings without exception to that state. May the precious Supreme Bodhisattva not yet born arise. May that reason not decline but increase more and more. In this land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. You uphold the subduer's moral way, the service of the battlefield bearer form, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine. O Master accomplishes magnificent prayers, honoring the three jewels, protect of myself and others, your disciples. Please live long. Thank you, people. Sorry?
You want to live really long.
Really long.
Really long.
What is that?
Well, just being quite silly, then you want to live a really long time.